Alright, so as of Friday, Spider-Man has officially come to the PC, and by extension, the Steam Deck. Now, when it dropped in 2018, it was pretty much a massive success for Sony and pretty much raised the bar for superhero games in a way we really hadn't seen since the Arkham games. So now that it's here, how is it? Well, that's what I'm going to be going over today, is how it's different, how it performs, and then my final thoughts on what it's like to finally jump into a game as massive and just high quality as Spider-Man on a handheld. So first, let's go ahead and talk about some of the differences or enhancements for the PC version. Now, if you watch the PC features trailer that they released some time back, you already know that it has a ton of graphical enhancements, including improved shadows, support for ultra-wide displays, ray-traced reflections, and unlocked frame rate, NVIDIA DLSS and DLAA for improved AI and image quality, and finally DualSense controller support, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, on the graphics side of things, a lot of these features really aren't going to matter much unless you're playing on a big, beefy gaming rig. It's not that it looks bad on the Steam Deck or anything, it's just that at the end of the day, this is a handheld, so you're not exactly going to get the same fidelity here as you would out of something like a full-blown souped-up tower PC with a cutting-edge graphics card. So yeah, no 4K 60 coming out of the deck or anything, considering it's closer in power to a PS4 or a PS4 Pro than a PlayStation 5. Meaning that while you can play on the Steam Deck comfortably at 30 FPS, getting to 60 FPS just isn't going to happen, even massively scaling back any graphical effects. I did my best tinkering around with a lot of the graphical options, like disabling ambient occlusion or screen space reflections, but no matter what I did, I really couldn't get it to do very well past 30. Even trying to lock the refresh rate to 40 Hz and just doing the 40 FPS thing really didn't result in a very smooth experience, because often it would still dip below 40 no matter what I tried to set it to. Now, to be fair, that's just me fumbling around a bit and trying to feel my way through these settings to see if there's some way to make it happen, so if you have any suggestions, please let me know, because I would definitely want to see if I could get this thing to 40, because it would be just a little bit smoother. But all that being said, 30 FPS is definitely playable, and it seems like just sticking with the default settings whenever you first load up the game seems to be the way to go. And despite the fact that you're not going to be playing Spidey at ultimate settings or anything like that, it's still one of the best looking games that I've seen on the deck so far, and flipping around this version of New York still feels pretty magical in a handheld format. But let's talk about the DualSense for a second before moving on. Now, if you did watch that PC features trailer, it does tout DualSense support. However, if you look in very tiny text at the bottom, it says that you have to have a wired connection to take full advantage of those features. However, in my initial testing, just having it plugged in through a USB-C hub to the Steam Deck, I did not get those features. Like, it would rumble and all the buttons worked just fine, but I was not feeling any tension in like the analog pulls or anything like that, and certainly not the nuanced rumble that I'm used to having like on the PlayStation 5 when I play Spider-Man. So I'm not sure if that only works for Windows, or if maybe there's just like a driver or an update or something that I'm missing for the Steam Deck that would unlock that functionality, but at least out of the box it did not work for me. So if your experience has been different, please let me know, because, I do love the DualSense. Plus, for Spider-Man in particular, I just feel like all that additional tactile feedback and the sensations that get communicated through the analog sticks when you're swinging around New York really does add a lot to the immersion factor. So with all of that out of the way, we should probably talk about the game a little bit, and if you've never played Spider-Man before, there is no better time than now. Now, personally, I don't like to paint with broad strokes, but I don't think it's a stretch to say that this might be the best superhero game of all time. Or you know what, if it's not the greatest superhero game of all time, it at least lands among the greatest superhero games of all time. Right up there with the likes of the Arkham titles, or the X-Men arcade game, and of course the immortal classic, 2003's Aquaman, Battle for Atlantis. Alright, but all jokes aside, it really is top-notch in just about every way. Storytelling, presentation, mechanics, performance, it's all there. My only minor gripe with Spider-Man is that it didn't really break any crazy new ground on this particular genre, because honestly there have been a lot of incredible open world games by 2018 with solid performance, mechanics, presentation, and storytelling, but what really made 2018 Spider-Man so special is it seemed to nail all of these different aspects just effortlessly and finally give Peter Parker the modern title he deserved. It's just so jam-packed with stuff to do, and the city itself feels so densely populated and alive that it almost feels like a character in and of itself. And naturally, you'll spend time doing Spider-Man stuff like pummeling bad guys while Peter doles out one-liners, doing random side quests for citizens, stopping runaway cars, battling iconic villains, and naturally try to balance the burdens of vigilantism against the challenges that Peter faces in his personal life. And that personal side of Peter's story is what really puts a bow on the whole Spider-Man experience. It's funny and heartfelt and crushing, and I have zero reservation in telling you that this game absolutely made me tear up in at least two distinct moments when I first played it back in 2018. Now obviously I'm not going to spoil anything here, but suffice it to say, if you've held off this long, no greater time than now to jump in. And for the most part, actually playing as Spider-Man, flipping around New York and beating up bad guys and sprinting up skyscrapers feels as good as it ever has. And while I expected a few quirks from the PC version, particularly on the Steam Deck where I knew the graphics would have to be scaled back at least a little bit to make this whole thing possible, I gotta be honest with you, I don't really think that I found anything that didn't feel as smooth as when I played it on the PS5. Now granted, I don't find it quite as immersive as playing on the PS5 with full DualSense support, but again, come on, we're playing basically the entire Spider-Man experience in a handheld basically flawlessly at 30 FPS. I'm totally okay with that, and I can tell you based on the time I've spent with it so far that at no point did I just stop in the middle of action and find that something wasn't functioning right, or that the graphics looked a little bit off or anything like that. I just got completely absorbed in the experience like I would any game that runs flawlessly on the deck. So all this being said, if you had to choose between the PS5 version or the PC version, which one should you go for? As always, personal preference is going to play a part in your decision making, but all things being equal, if you sat me down and asked me which version I wanted to play for a few hours, I might have to go for the PC version. Because not only can it bring Spidey to life with greater graphical fidelity, but it also supports one of the biggest features that made me lean towards the PS5 in the first place with that DualSense controller. Plus, if you have an ultra-wide monitor or like a super ultra-wide monitor and a rig powerful enough to push all those pixels, then I'm guessing that's probably one of the most monstrously immersive ways that you could enjoy this game. And honestly, playing a game that already looked this great on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 in even greater graphical fidelity has me seriously consider building another gaming rig just so I can take advantage of all that power. And as we all know, with great power
comes great responsibility.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. It's just that's my favorite Key and Peele sketch of all time, so. But seriously, if you've never played Spider-Man before, it doesn't really matter where you play it, so just grab it on the device that makes sense to you, whether that's pulled up on your couch in front of a big old TV, a big beefy gaming rig, or if you're playing it on a long car ride in portable mode, no matter where you choose to play Spider-Man, you're going to have an amazing time. But this is just one guy's opinion, so what about you? Will you be grabbing Spider-Man for the PC? And if so, will it be your first time playing Spider-Man, or will it be you revisiting it, having already beaten it on the PS4 or PS5 like I have? And if you have any optimization tips for the Steam Deck that I haven't explored here, let me know. I'd love to hear about them. As always, thanks for taking the time out of your day to watch these videos. It means a lot to me because the internet's a really big place, so it means a lot that you would spend some time here. Take care, and I will see you on the next one.